Welcome back. Some good news. Human rights advocate Steve Letsike has been appointed as the chair of the Commonwealth Equality Network. Letsike has a wealth of experience in high-level international policy development and human rights. She also serves as the co-chairperson of the South African National AIDS Council and co-chairs the National Task Team on Hate Crimes, an initiative by the Department of Justice, Constitutional Development, the Commonwealth Equality Network, which was established in 2013 and comprises a network of organizations that challenge inequality based on sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and sex characteristics. The network ensures the human rights of LGBTI plus people and protects and promotes in line with international human rights standards. We're now joined via Zoom by Commonwealth Equality Network newly appointed chair, Steve Letsike. Steve, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Congratulations on this new appointment. How do you feel?
Thank you so much, Peter. Really, thanks for having me, and to the viewers of SABC. Look, I think this is excellent news. I really feel good about this. Our membership across the Commonwealth, 54 countries of the Commonwealth entrusted us to really advance the human rights agenda, within the Commonwealth states. So I really feel it's a privilege, it's an honor, and my responsibility is to work with everybody, including the heads of government, towards this quest.
It sounds like a huge job, and I think about equality issues, particularly on our continent. We have so many countries that are lagging behind and some that are just fighting it. And I just wonder how you're going to approach bringing these countries into the 21st century.
Peter, Commonwealth have got 54 country member states, of which, Africa is part of it, Americas, Pacific Island, Asia and Europe are part of it. Our membership really sits with a lot of countries. 35 out of 54 countries still criminalize homosexual act. That means the lives of LGBTI people are at risk, they are marginalized and oppressed. And again, our history of the Commonwealth comes with the legacy of many countries, and majority of countries which are member states of Commonwealth were colonized. So this history of oppression will carry this legacy throughout it all. Now, here we are, Commonwealth, with a mandate of really building solidarity, addressing democracy, peace, and developmental agenda. How do we advance this within the consensus basis that Commonwealth have agreed upon, Harare Declaration that carries the wealth of Commonwealth? When the member states, when governments and heads of governments come together, they come to carry the Harare Declaration that seeks to really advance peace, global economic development, and even the international rule of law. So Commonwealth on its own, it's a consensus-based platform, but it's also a very important platform that says that we do not want to carry forward this history and legacy of oppression, but in this new era of leadership, we need to provide a role around developmental agenda that brings everybody into the play, equal rights for all citizens of the Commonwealth. You would understand also Commonwealth sits over 2.5 billion citizens, and it's a responsibility that all stakeholders, government, civil society, and development partners or private sectors must come together to advance the rule of law in these countries.
All right, so, I hear what you're saying and I hear the intention, but you know what? I think of countries not too far away from us right now where they simply just say, this is un-African, we're not going to do it, and that's the end of it.
Of course, change doesn't happen overnight, but let's take the recent good news that we've had. This is even less than a month, Peter. In Botswana, Botswana's High Court has ruled that the criminalization of homosexual act is unconstitutional. So which then means the judicial system is functional and can be tested. And again, I'm just going to stick around our own region. We've had in the last 3 years, we've had Mozambique, we've had Angola, we've had Seychelles that have decriminalized. In Kenya, as we speak, there's a court case, which then means the rule of law is being tested. And you cannot go far without testing the law. Laws must be tested to ensure justice or to ensure a just system if parliamentarians, politicians, and even policymakers fail to advance in a fast-tracked repairing of injustice of the past. So we believe that by working with all stakeholders, we can do that. If you move to Americas, you've had Belize, you've had Trinidad and Tobago that have decriminalized. So we have advancement, but we've also had pushback where other countries have really stuck around with saying it's an African. But, we cannot ignore the history, again, of conversion practices. Two social institutions plays a role that has not transformed to actually ensure respect of coexistence, but also respect for humanity. If we speak about how much religion institution or cultural institutions have contributed to conversion practices, right now here in South Africa, we seek to have a country to ban conversion practices, even to respect the rule of law. So we understand that sometimes what we speak about intentions, what we speak about what is on the policy or what is in the constitution, and the reality does differ. But we have to do it. We have to take a step forward. We have to work with everybody that is an ally, that can build solidarity, but also that can understand what we need to be achieving in advancing equal rights for all. So I believe that with everybody, everywhere, can put a hand in ensuring that we advance a healthy developmental agenda, we can go far.
All right, so what do people in the meantime, I'm looking in the region, you've mentioned Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, and then you go north and you've got Zimbabwe and Zambia. And I just wonder, people in those countries, what do they do in the meantime? Because they're in hiding, they feel persecuted and attacked.
Well, one of the key things is that we have indicated to South African government that throughout our history as African, there's been immense silence. So our solidarity should not be in the corners. We need to be bold. We need to use our diplomatic powers to actually engage governments of our neighboring countries, which even if we respect sovereignty, because we've had these kind of talks before, that our foreign policy says this, we stick to promote our own constitution, but we also respect other countries' sovereignty. So what do we do? What is the most important thing is to save lives. There is a crisis that we have throughout our region. We have a crisis in other regions as well, whether in Asia or in Americas. But we cannot put our face or eyes on the side and ignore the reality. We have to put people first. And putting people first, it means that even if we are isolated as a country, we have to stand up and ask our siblings, our neighboring country, head of state, to say, is it necessary first that people must be persecuted, must be arrested, like we've seen in Ghana, like we've seen in Kukuma of Kenya, that people are dying, people are arrested and harassed, tortured, and we cannot accept that. We are part of international global community, and we are ought to actually respect some of the treaties we have signaled to. But at the same time, can we rescue people in the absence of their own government not playing that part? And I think there are quite a number of possibilities to explore. Civil society groups have worked immensely to ensure that there's people who are rescued, human rights defenders who goes into shelters, who goes into safe houses in this time of crisis. But at the same time, communities who needs help must be helped in the absence of their own government. So at the same time, we cannot. So we have to move in a parallel manner of ensuring that these oppressions and the services that are needed are still addressed, while we also deal with some of the arrogance that we see some governments or some stakeholders would be enforcing, which are oppressive rules.
I suppose this equality journey is a long one, because you can have the decriminalization of same-sex relationships, but there are other issues, perhaps wanting to change your birth certificate, to reassign your gender on your ID, things like that. I guess this is still a battle.
This is still a battle. I mean, our own journey, Peter, speaks, volume. We have still not achieved equality here in South Africa. Our history of race, a history of sex, and even sexual orientation, amongst many other grounds, it's an over-evolving equality revolution, if we may call it that way. A lot of it does not only just depend on policies, and I think South Africa has one of the best constitution that really can be seen as a celebrated template, across the world. But also some of the adjustment or amendment still needs to be maintained. And we know that our constitution is a living document, so which then means we often have to amend it to fit the era of the agenda today, whether it's land and many other things we have to reflect on. But now, when we speak about moving from policy to action, it's about what it means. And the biggest challenge we have in our country, it's really around social attitude. It's about behavior. I mean, typically how South Africans and many people that violates others and take away that right, the power struggle, toxic masculinity, where we find ourselves in a very toxic society that we become sides of struggle of our own generation. And I think that needs to change. It's unacceptable that even law enforcement is not efficiently implemented in the community. But at the same time, where are community stakeholders who are playing critical role? And we've seen best practice in addressing these gaps. But we want South Africans really to change their behavior in how they treat each other, whether how they treat women, how they treat people with disability, how they treat children, LGBTI, and many other marginalized communities, including people living with HIV. Our history does not deserve the kind of behavior we have today. And people have actually squandered this very same history that have shed quite a lot of blood. It's unacceptable, and we have to take it up and own it as South Africans, whether young or older people. We have to own this behavior and change it. It's amongst us. The solution sits with us, and we can do it still.
Well, we certainly wish you the best. Congratulations again on your appointment as the chair of the Commonwealth Equality Network. Does this mean you might meet the Queen, Steve?
It means we will be working very closely.
Steve Letsike, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.